Another SEC matchup. Auburn dropped another game against USC this weekend. That's still not shooting the ball well, and they turned the ball over, I think, 23 times. What did you see in that loss?
Yeah, very sloppy. I thought Auburn in the second half, I think they turned it over 15 or 16 times in the second half. Now, give them credit. They play so hard. They still had opportunities to win. Trey Donaldson's really come on for him. He's a freshman from out of out of Tallahassee, Florida. He went to University High School, which is like the lab school over at Baton Rouge or at LSU. That's like the lab school for Florida State. And Auburn got him out there. He's a two-sport athlete. I believe he plays baseball as well. But really, really good player. He had 10 points in the first half of the game at Southern Cal. I say that to say he looks to be a steadying presence at the guard spot. Not quite as jittery and up and down as Jasper and Wendell Green and some of those guys. So I think they may have. Obviously, it was a tough loss at Southern Cal, but I think they may have found something that they can work with in terms of Trey Donaldson at guard. I think he played pretty well against Georgia State as well in the game before this back in Auburn, and so I think they may have found something they can work with to cut those turnovers down, maybe be a little bit more efficient, not take such wild shots as some of their guards take. But we'll see. They got another big game. They're on a Pac-12 road trip. They got Southern Cal. Obviously, they played them Sunday, and then they're at Washington, which will be a very, very challenging game. Keon Brooks, who played at Kentucky the last couple years, is one of Washington's leading scorers. Great player. Somebody that I always loved. I thought he was one of the best players in the league. I thought he was a really, really good four-man. And then Washington also has one of the best freshmen in the country, Keon Minifield. Not a lot of people know about him. He's out west. He actually led the EYBL in scoring. He's skinny, but he's an unbelievable athlete. He led Washington in scoring the other night. I think he had 13, 14. He's electric. He comes off the bench for Washington, but he's going to be a really, really good player. Kid from the Chicago area, Gary, Indiana, I believe. But it should be a really good matchup. We'll see how Donaldson plays on another tough road game at Washington. But I do think Auburn found something they can work with Donaldson. He gives them a little bit more of a steady hand.
Yeah, sticking with Auburn, but kind of shifting back to the NBA. They obviously are missing Jabari Smith Jr., who was a big part of their offense last season and their success there. But he hasn't really transitioned quite as easily.
They missed Walker Kessler. They missed Kessler big time. I don't know if you know that. I mean, Kessler played volleyball on our shots last year at Auburn. We worked for 2 days on playing off 2 feet and doing all this pivoting and all this stuff. Our guys went in there off 1 foot and Kessler had like 9 blocks on us. But yeah, they missed Smith and Kessler. And, Smith's going to be a really good NBA player. I think that's what you're getting at now. But Smith's going to be a really good NBA player. Sometimes it takes time. It's a different game, different speed. There's a lot of adjustments that have to be made. And Smith's uber talented. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's very, very smart. He's going to be somebody that when it clicks at the next level, I think he's going to be a tremendous player. But he's he certainly was a great college player for Auburn last year. You got him the ball at the elbows. Auburn got him the ball at the elbows a ton, and there wasn't a whole lot you could do. When he got the ball at the elbows, he was going to make something happen, score it, or find a way to make some good things happen. And so I thought he was really good for them. And like I said, Kessler, somebody they missed. And a lot of, look, you forget they had 2 first-round picks on their front line now with Smith and Kessler. So that can cover up some of the issues with some guards and some of the other issues that are going on. Anytime you got 2 first-round picks, that covers a lot of stuff up. And so they've got some talented players with Cardwell and Johan and Chris Moore and some of those other guys that they have on their front line. But they certainly need their guards to be better. But I got no doubt Jabari is going to be a very, very good and very, very capable NBA player.
Another loss for the SEC, Alabama. It seems like they finally lost one of those big games. They've been able to step up in those games all season, but they dropped with a 10-point loss to Gonzaga. What did you see in that matchup?
Well, I thought it was a great game, fast-paced, up and down. I thought both teams were really good offensively. I mean, how good is Brandon Miller, the freshman from Alabama? Tremendous player. I think he had 30 some odd in the game. I mean, he was awesome. Drew Timme from Gonzaga is so good. Give Gonzaga a lot of credit. They've navigated a really tough non-conference schedule. They're 9-3. They got a home bye game left, so I think they'll go into West Coast Conference play 10-3. But they've navigated a really tough non-conference schedule. But I think Alabama is a tremendous team. I think them and Tennessee, Arkansas, Kentucky. I think those are your top four. But I think Alabama and Tennessee may be a little bit better than Arkansas and Kentucky right now. That was the first time Alabama's defense has really let them down. But Gonzaga is so explosive offensively and so good offensively. It's not that much. I don't think it's that much of a surprise that the defense gave up 100 points to Gonzaga. But Alabama's been really solid defensively most of the year. The freshman Clowney's been tremendous for him. Noah Clowney, he's been awesome. Mark Sears has been solid at guard for him. Jaden Bradley's continuing to play better. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he's continuing to play better. So I like their pieces. I think their team fits really well together. But Alabama's just got to be, got to get back to what they had been doing on defense, which is being really good. And, Tennessee's obviously got some questions on the offensive end. Kentucky's got some questions on the offensive end. And I think Arkansas's got a few questions with their depth. But I think all four of those are very good teams, and I think that the league's pretty top heavy.
100%. One of the SEC teams you touched on in that last question was Tennessee. They weren't able to get it done against Arizona this weekend. What happened in that matchup that the Volunteers weren't able to get the win?
Well, I thought their defense was solid. Really, their offense was just okay. Their guards didn't shoot it well enough for them to win. Vescovi and Ziegler, those guys are going to have to shoot it better for them to win, especially big games. And so, I think they're a work in progress. Offensively, I think they're elite by any stretch of the imagination. Defensively, I think they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. Defensively, they've just got to figure out how to generate more offense and more consistent offense, particularly from their point guard and 2 guard and even their threes. And so, that's going to be the challenge for Tennessee. But because they're so good defensively, they're going to be in every game. They're going to have opportunities in every game because they're just elite defensively. Just like they go on the road to a very good Arizona team, and they gave themselves a chance. They had a chance coming down the stretch. They were in the game the entire game. They just couldn't make enough shots. They just couldn't make enough plays offensively to finish it off. But they're somebody that's going to be very consistent. They're not going to lose a lot of games they shouldn't lose because their defense keeps them in a lot of games, and so they'll win. They'll run up a lot of wins in SEC play. They got one more tune-up here before they start SEC play, and then they'll be right into the gauntlet. But I think they're really prepared. I mean, if I had to bet on anybody right now, I'd bet on them to win the league. I think Alabama's probably second, but I think they're more prone to maybe lose to somebody they shouldn't lose to than Tennessee is. And then I'd put Arkansas third, probably Kentucky fourth, and Mississippi State fifth. After that, I think it's wide open. I think there's quite a few teams that could come in anywhere from 6 to 10, 6 to 11. I think the bottom 3 are pretty cut and dry with South Carolina and Vanderbilt and Georgia. Although Georgia picked up a big win yesterday against Notre Dame in Atlanta. But I think those top 4 are pretty well set. But I give Tennessee the edge just because their defense is so good and they'll grind out enough points. I mean, if you hold somebody to 55, the law of averages says you can score 56, 57, and they're going to be able to do that a lot of the time. And so, they just got to find a way to get a little bit more potent offensively. which is a little bit tough because they do a really good job of playing complementary basketball. So they have all those great defensive numbers, but they have it because, their offense helps their defense out. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They take they do a lot of things offensively to help their defense out and keep them in a good space. And so, they got to figure out a way to generate some more points offensively, but still not affecting their bread and butter, which is their elite defense.
Coach, on a scale of 1 to 100, how confident are you that Tennessee will win the league? If you get what I'm saying, we're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, I'm not. I'd say
20.
Look, they also have. Look, part of it is too. I think they get Vanderbilt twice. They get Kentucky twice, which is obviously tough. And I think they get Georgia. And I think Georgia's their permanent rival. They get part of it is who your permanent rivals are. I'd give them a 60% chance to win it.
You talked about those top 4 teams, and the one you put in at 5 was Mississippi State. They had a close one against Nicholls this weekend. Did
you see the end of that by any chance?
I did not.
Nicholls, it was a 2-point game. Mississippi State's inbound, and I was probably the only person in the country watching this. Austin Kalanch is a good friend of mine, the coach at Nicholls. Great guy. Good, really good program down there. Good folks. So Mississippi State calls timeout. Nicholls steals the inbounds pass and has a wide open 3 to win the game with 2 seconds left and misses it. And then they miss a tip in that would have won the game or that would have tied the game and sent it to overtime. So Nicholls had their opportunities. It'd be interesting. Mississippi State's got a critical game at Drake tomorrow, or against Drake tomorrow in Nebraska, in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Mississippi State's they're kind of they're leaking oil a little bit right now. They had a really tight game with Jackson State in their annual game that they play in Jackson at the Mississippi Coliseum there, where they have the state tournament. They had a really tight game with Jackson State earlier in the week. They played a really tight game with Nicholls. Now they've got a really good Drake team with the coach's son at Drake is an NBA prospect, Tucker DeVries. Tremendous player. So they've got a really tough game with Drake tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how they respond. I was watching Coach Janz's reaction after that Nicholls game. You could see after he shook their hands, he was ready to just go rip somebody in that locker room. So it'll be interesting how they respond. They're obviously off to an 11-0 start. Their defense is elite. They've played good complementary offense, playing through Tolu Smith. DJ Jeffries has played well. Cam Matthews has played well when he needs to. So they've kind of been sneaking around and poking around a little bit. But I'm interested to see if they can kind of turn it back up. It looks like going into the break here, they're leaking oil, and I never liked, if I could help it, playing good teams going into Christmas like this. But maybe I always like to play a bum so we could know we were going to win. If your guys were a little bit distracted or worried about other stuff, that you still had a pretty good shot. You knew you were going to win. But them playing in Lincoln against Drake. This may be what they need. Maybe they've gotten bored because they're playing these other teams, and maybe they need to play a good team from the Missouri Valley, and maybe this is what Mississippi State needs to kind of ignite them and kickstart them and get them back going. So we'll see how that game goes tomorrow. But that's a critical swing game. They'll enter SEC play 12-0. They just walk the dog in SEC play. They're going to get in the NCAA tournament. They're going to be really tough to beat in Starkville, just because of how good the defense is, and the crowds are going to come out, and they'll be a tough out in Starkville.